Hey everybody, I'm John Granato. That's Lance Zierlein. You can hear us mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet so you get all of our content here at SportsMap HOU. Lance, the Chronicle ran a story this week that said that the Rockets actually waited too long to trade James Harden. They should have started the rebuild earlier. Had they traded him, had they seen the deterioration of his skill set, they would not be in the predicament with Russell Westbrook that they got themselves into. What do you think?
I disagree. The timing, if you go back and look at the timing, they had Chris Paul. They had to get rid of Chris Paul. They had just come off of, they lost to the Warriors. The year before that, they had 65 wins. So you're talking about trading him 2 years removed from a 65-win season. That's just not – it's not really viable. It's not feasible. They took on Russell Westbrook because they had to get rid of Chris Paul's contract because Chris Paul had been there 2 years, and James decided it was just an untenable situation with Chris Paul. So if you look at the timing of it, I don't buy that. James Harden was still one of the top scorers in the entire league. I don't feel like that timeline is accurate. Now, you could have made that argument. You could have made the argument about trading James, but if you had traded James in, because we had talked about things like that, moving James Harden, you would have been in full rebuild mode, and would you have gotten something good for him? Yeah, but do you think there's any way Tillman Fertitta would have purchased the team and then just dismantled it?
No, that's it. Everybody wants to get to that rebuild so soon, or what? That window was open. The window was absolutely open. And by the way, who knew Russell Westbrook would be that Russell Westbrook that not – I mean, he's gotten worse and worse and worse. I guess you could see the deterioration of his skill set since he's so athletic, and, the athleticism is going to go. But see the drop-off? No. And by the way, they could have still won and won big here. And, well, how about James? Can he still win big? After you're forcing himself out of here, forcing his way out of Brooklyn, and now seeing the way he is now, is this his last chance at a title?
Was it his last chance, you mean?
Was it, or
he's done.
Embiid is still there?
I think that, the problem is, in theory you have another chance next year, but as long as you have James making $47 million, it limits the ability to spend that money in another place. And you have to wonder, can James be the player he needs to be? Can he remake himself? I'll give Carmelo Anthony some credit. Carmelo Anthony, who was a big ego guy, and it's understandable for former stars, he was able to kind of remake himself after not wanting to come off the bench in Houston and thinking he was still, this type of player. He was out of basketball, came back, and he's kind of remade himself a little bit. Maybe James can do that. I think James doesn't like the heat that goes with being the star, but then I think he likes the cash and the money and everything else that goes with it. You can't have them both. Like, one comes with the other.
Right.
And I get the feeling that James – maybe James is willing to. He certainly doesn't need that much money. I mean, he makes so much money as it is. So it's not like it's, a lifestyle. I think the lifestyle will continue. But, John, I don't know if he can take on a role as a number 3 option on a team. I don't know if he has it in him. I think he likes doing that when he doesn't want the smoke. Right. And he doesn't want all the pressure, but can he do that for 82 games?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Carmelo. Remember, he was mentally challenged when he was here because
that's what he said.
Yes,
what
he
said. It was a challenge mentally to come off the bench.
Well, yeah, he was mentally challenged. That's what I said. And he's able to come off the bench now and be a part. And you know what? And actually playing a role, like you said. John Wall wouldn't come off the bench, right? He said, "I'm not doing that." But you know what? John Wall is probably going to have to do that at the end of his career. And James Harden might have to live with the fact that he is going to be, if he wants to win a title, if he wants to win big, he's going to have to do that. When you saw Chris Paul fail again, does it say, wait a minute, now, you know what? This is what Chris Paul does. I mean, we all thought, hey, if he doesn't get hurt, the Rockets were going to absolutely win the title that year. Maybe not. Maybe Chris Paul just loses.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for it. I mean, Chris Paul, he had a Game 6 and a Game 7 that he comes up short. He did that with the Clippers against the Rockets. Had a chance to close it out in Game 6. The Rockets won. He played poor in that game. Then they smoked him in Game 7 here at Toyota Center. He had Rockets where – now, he was out, not his fault, but you had the Game 6 and Game 7 when he was out, so that really doesn't count. Same situation happened with the Rockets. And then, of course, you have here – you have a chance to take care of the Mavericks Game 6 and Game 7, and you don't do it. You get blown out both games. 2 games in a row you were blown out. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to put it on Chris Paul necessarily, but this is his narrative. His narrative is that he's been on some good regular season teams, and he doesn't have the iconic moments in the postseason that are going to be memories of, you know, who he is and what he is. We talked about it with James, but this may be Chris Paul's last chance because there's already dissension with DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams, the head coach and the you know, the big man.
Yep.
They could move him off the team. Like, you never know if he and Chris Booker are going to be those guys. And
Devin.
I'm just not convinced James and Chris Paul have another championship run in them with different teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either. I think that's the end of the line for Chris Paul and maybe James Harden as well.